Hi, everyone. And today for social studies, we're going to be learning about one individual who contributed a lot to the American Revolution. And his name is James Armistead. And James Armistead actually served as a spy for the revolution, or during the revolution, rather. And this is James Armistead. When the revolution was going on, he was actually an enslaved person in the South. And he ends up going to his slave owner and saying, listen, I know you believe in freedom. I'd like to offer help to the Continental Army. And his owner says, absolutely, go ahead. So who was James Armistead? Well, he was a spy. And more than that, he was a double agent. Now, double agent is a pretty important vocabulary word, so we're going to try to break it down here. So a double agent is someone you think is working for you, but they make it look like they are really working for you while they're actually working for somebody else. Now, if you're confused by that definition, you have every right to be because it's very, very confusing. So what James Armistead did was he went to Lafayette and said, I'm going to work for you and offer to spy on the British. And he's able to infiltrate the British camp and make it to work for high-level British officials. So once he makes it up to those high ranks, they have this very smart plan where they said, hey, James Armistead, you're an American. Why don't you go spy on the Americans and report back to us? Well, Lafayette was already spying on the British for the Americans. So now the British are offering to have him freely go back and forth between camps so that he could spy on the Americans. This made traveling for him just a little bit easier. So ultimately, James Armistead is going to go back to the Marquis de Lafayette and tell him that the British think that James is working for them. And when he's going to exchange information, he's going to give Americans real military information on the British, while he's going to pass along false intelligence to the British or outdated information so that they just couldn't act on that information any longer. So that's really what he did. So if we think about who he worked for versus who he spied on, he ends up working for this character that we're going to see in our episode of Liberty's Kids. And this is the Marquis de Lafayette. And he's going to end up spying on, ultimately, this individual. And he was the top British general in the South, if we can think about who that is. And he's also going to end up spying on this person. In this picture, he happens to be wearing a blue coat. But when James Armistead gets involved, he's not wearing blue anymore. He's wearing red. Because this is Benedict Arnold. And James Armistead is going to spy on Benedict Arnold first, and then he's going to move up the ranks to ultimately spy on the top British general in the South, Charles Cornwallis. So what's going to happen to James Armistead? Well, we're going to find out, and we're going to watch this episode of Liberty's Kids that's going to show us how he helps the Americans. And then we will see that he does have an impact and come back a little bit more in the future, and we'll talk about him a little bit more. So what you're going to do right now is exit this video and go watch that episode of Liberty's Kids. There are some questions embedded in the video today as well. So do your best.